Hey, Pennsylvania, it's Wine O'Clock on Wine Time, PA. Join Rob, Holly, and Steve as they explore their home state of Pennsylvania and all the wonderful wineries it has to offer. Each month, they take a journey tasting the wines of PA. If you're able, pour a glass of your favorite wine and join us now for Wine Time.
And welcome to another episode of Wine Time PA. I'm one of your hosts, Holly, and as always, I'm joined with my two co-hosts, my husband, Steve.
I'm always second.
And our good friend, Rob.
I guess I'm third then.
She has to do the husband second. That's why, and I always do her second. So.
Yeah, well, I'm first. That's all that matters. Anyway, for those of you that are new, welcome. We are a podcast of three people who live in the state of Pennsylvania who love wine, and we're on a journey to visit all of the wineries in our home state, and we're documenting our journey on this podcast.
Yay, wine.
In this episode, we'll be discussing a visit we did in April of 2026 to Stone Villa Wine Cellars. If you're unfamiliar, it is located in the town of Acme, Pennsylvania.
It's where I get all my bombs.
Yes, it has nothing to do with the cartoon corporation Acme, which I think if we all hear Acme, it's the first thing we think of. It's located in the southwestern part of the state, less than an hour drive from Pittsburgh, close to the town of Latrobe. And if you're a longtime Pennsylvania resident, you may remember Latrobe is where Rolling Rock beer got its start. Now, this is not the first time that Steve and I had visited this property. It is for Rob, but it's not for Steve and I. Steve and I went there about 4 or 5 years ago. Steve's sister doesn't live far from there, and I think we did a quick visit, but it's been a while, and I've been excited to go back since we've been there.
Yeah, I remember we really liked it, and I remember us thinking we needed wine to be at my sister's house, and no offense to my sister, but she throws big, overwhelming parties, and I'm a little bit of an introvert, so need alcohol. Yeah, and I just remember, I don't remember exactly what we got. I think I remember, but I do know that we finished that bottle real quick.
I think I remember what it was, but we'll talk about that later with the wines. But anyway, it was a lovely visit, that first time and this time recently. And thanks in part to the wonderful staff. In particular, we want to give a shout out to the general manager and head winemaker, Dominic. I had reached out to the winery ahead of time about our visit. He was not only a wonderful host guiding us through a tasting of the wines, he also gave us a behind-the-scenes tour of their winemaking process. And honestly, we can't say thank you enough for a wonderful visit, Dominic.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dominic, for being such a gracious and kind host to us that day. Now, the winery itself is owned by Randall Paul and first opened their doors in 2000. And at the time, they were only one of the few wineries in the area. But they're clearly doing something right as they just celebrated their 25 years in business last year. So congrats to them and best wishes for continued success. So the winery was built by Randall to be a winery, meaning they wanted to go into the wine business and they built it from scratch with that in mind. That it's not always common what we found in our journey. A lot of wineries purchase an existing building or take an existing property and turn it into a winery. But Randall was in the construction business prior, as well as his father was being a stonemason. Honoring that, they built a tasting room building made out of stone, hence the name Stone Villa. And it really is quite a lovely building that captures your attention the second you pull in.
Yeah, I absolutely love the setting here. There's something very romantic and almost storybook about it when you pull in and you just see this beautiful building in the outdoor setting.
Yeah, it gives me the inspiration that it's from Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the inside is nice and lovely as well. But what really adds to that storybook feeling, as you called it, Holly, is the setting. To the setting is the outside. Mm-hmm. They have this big, beautiful pond out back with a stunning countryside view, along with lots of seating to enjoy the scenery. There are stone patio areas with tables and chairs. They even have cabanas and pavilions that you can rent. Now, a note about renting the cabanas and pavilions. They are for smaller gatherings, and you can't rent them for private events like weddings, for example. And to rent one of them, you will get a gift card in the amount for the rental fee that you can use, which is kind of a win-win in our books. And there's more information about this on their website if you are interested.
Yeah, that's not a terrible deal. You just get your money back, basically.
In wine.
In wine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the time Holly and I went, there was live music that day, and I got to say that patio was packed. We could not have probably found a table if we'd wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the wine. So Dominic has been the head winemaker since 2019. He said he didn't go to any formal schooling, but kind of learned working in the fields. You can tell he is very knowledgeable about the winemaking and produces some really great wines. They do not grow their own grapes, but they do believe in making 100% Pennsylvania wines. And just like us and other Pennsylvania wineries that we've mentioned in past episodes, he really hopes to improve that perception of Pennsylvania wines. They get almost everything they use from the Erie region and produce about 10,000 cases of wine per year. And we really enjoyed the tour of the process and seeing all the equipment they use. They had like ozone cleaners, corking machines, plate filtration systems. But the one thing that actually I think all of us thought was interesting and we thought we'd share a little bit to educate any of you that are interested is about the cold stabilization. So if you've ever drank wine in your life and at some point come across these little crystals, that's what we're talking about. They're called tartrates. I hope I said that right. They're also sometimes called wine diamonds, which are 100% safe to consume. But, they can add to lack of clarity in the wine or make it seem like there's something else. So it's mostly just from that naturally occurring tartaric acid as it binds with potassium when exposed to colder temperatures. So the cold stabilization they do involves putting it into a very cold freezer and rapidly dropping that temperature. They do this for a period of time and then bring that temperature back up slowly so the crystals can then be easily filtered out, and you probably won't get any at your house then. Keeps the wine nice and clear, and you don't have to worry about any kind of interesting residuals that make you think twice about the wine. I just thought that was kind of interesting and thought maybe you did as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed that part. It was, we've done some tours before. I think that was the first one where you've gone through somebody that showed us that they did the cold stabilization in that process, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, a little more in depth than some of our tours we've gotten. So again, thank you, Dominic, for that.
Yeah, I kind of wonder how many other places do that.
Yeah, something worth maybe asking next time we do a tour. All right, so for a tasting, you go to the bar when you come in, and they will actually give you 4 wines to taste for free. Side note, we always say we don't expect anything when we visit wineries, but they did give us a guiding tasting of more wines than the 4 on our visit, so we could talk about them on this episode, and we do want to thank them for that. However, if you're a regular guest, the samples that they give you are pretty generous, I've noticed, so you could share. So you're there with somebody else, and you're like, I want to try more than 4.
Yeah, we even had to tell Dominic to take it easy on our pours since we were trying so many of them. So they are generous pours for you.
Yeah, and I think when we went the last time, I think we got 8 because we shared each other's tasting so that we could try a few more things.
Yep, exactly. So that's an option. When we visited, they had 24 wines that you could taste, and they were broken down on the tasting sheet as follows. There were 9 dry wines, 5 white and 4 red, 4 semi-dry wines, 2 were white, there was a red and a rosé, 4 semi-sweet wines, 1 white, 2 reds, and a rosé, and then 7 sweet wines, which I think were mostly white or pink in color or rosé. But anyway, once you do your tasting, if you want to stick around, you can purchase a bottle of your favorite wine and head out to the patio and enjoy it. Stephen mentioned the live music, which seems very common here on the weekends in the warmer months. So that's something to keep in mind as well if you're looking for some entertainment while you're out that way.
Bottles of wine begin around $15 and go to about $23, with the exception of 2 dry reds, which are $30 and above. Still, though, they're all reasonably priced for what you are getting. I also want to call out the labels. On the side of the labels, they have these lines, and the lines actually represent the county lines for that part of the state, which I know I found really cool, and I think you did too.
Yeah, it's also interesting. They do custom wine labels. So if you've got a big event, you can call them ahead of time, and you can get specifically made labels for your wines. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, always a fun little favor for parties and stuff.
Yeah. So the focus here is wine, and that's the only drink they offer other than bottled water as usual. No outside alcohol is permitted. You are, however, allowed to bring your own non-alcoholic beverages. Dominic had said that usually he can find a wine or two that even traditional beer drinkers will like. So keep that in mind if someone's tagging along with you that's not really a wino, there's usually something that you could find that they'll enjoy as well. They are part of something called the Laurel Highland Pour Tour. It's a thing you can look into if you live or are spending some time in the area. It includes not only places like Stone Villa, but other breweries, wineries, and distilleries that you can earn prizes by visiting. Yeah,
sounds fun if we lived a little closer.
Yeah,
we do love a good wine tour. Yeah, so they did have some cheese and cracker options for purchase inside the tasting room, and you are allowed to bring like picnic style food to enjoy, if especially if you're planning to sit outside on their patio. And they also noted that they sometimes have food trucks, probably more on those music weekends, and there is a nearby pizza place that you can order from also.
I mean, it's Acme. Do you think the pizza is like a booby trap?
Don't worry, I'll take my rocket there.
Okay. Anyway. All right, let's move on to the fun part where we discuss the wines themselves. As usual, in this section, we will start with 2 group picks. These are wines that all 3 of us enjoyed and think you should consider on your visit. After that, we will each give 2 individual picks of wine that stood out to us each personally. Reminder, these picks are based on our own personal palates and preferences, and we are not being paid or endorsed to give these recommendations. Also, our motto is, when it comes to wine, drink what you love, meaning don't worry about what others think about your choices. All wine serves a purpose. So, Steve, number 2, why don't you kick us off with your first group pick that we have?
All right, and that would be the Padre Rosé. So this is a blend of Fredonia, Steuben, and Caro Noir. And the Steuben scared me at first, but yeah, it didn't when I tasted it. This was just really good. What I really liked about this is you get like a nice semi-sweet start, which is very, Fredonia dominated, but you get a dry finish. That transition from sweet to dry is very smooth, and the finish is just perfect. And I do love that the drier finish doesn't leave you with all that sweetness on your tongue, so it just finishes really cleanly. In my notes, I actually have perfect to drink by the pool wine.
Yeah, I had that note as well, that Dominic said that this was a sit by the pool on a summer day wine. And I have to agree with this. In fact, I bought a bottle of this to take to my sisters to do just that later this summer.
Yeah, I get excited when you guys like a rosé too, because I mean, typically I'm the only one in the group that tends to drink the rosés, other than the pink Catawbas that I know you guys love. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I think it's worth noting there's a few wines that have Padre in them, and they had mentioned that the owner gives the proceeds of all of those wines to, is it like a local like church or charity or something? Yeah, like that they give those out there for. It was like a father or a priest that was influential in the family, and they like to give back in his name. So I just thought that was cool. So if you see a Padre wine, just know that you're going to a good cause too. All right, so Rob, what was our second group pick?
Our second group pick was the dry Riesling. So I do want to first note that they have 3 Rieslings on their menu: a dry, a semi-dry, and a semi-sweet. And honestly, all 3 of them are pretty good, but this is their dry version. And I got to say, I wouldn't know this was a dry just by drinking it. All those fruit notes you got up front really trick you into thinking you are drinking a sweeter wine. But this pretty much had everything I like about Rieslings all in one. It had those hints of minerality. There's citrus, even like lemons, even some like green apple. It was very crisp and smooth, and I thought the acidity at the finish was just spot on. And it was just a great example of a dry Riesling. And the semi-dry and semi-sweet versions were nearly as good as well. And, I think you should give them a chance too, especially if you do tend to like more sweeter wines. Maybe try those other ones, but don't pass up on the dry Riesling, because I think you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, I typically prefer semi-dry Rieslings because the drier ones often lose a lot of what makes Riesling special to me, like those fruit-forward flavors, but just not this one. That mix of lemon and apple was great. The acidity was perfect. This really might be the best dry Riesling I've ever had.
Yeah, I think my notes kind of match what both of you had said, like both Rob and Steve. I put crisp with notes of apple and citrus, with nice minerality and acidity. It was a standout Riesling. He also mentioned that it's a more limited run than the other 2, so I would go grab a bottle now if you can, honestly. I'm glad we bought a bottle that day.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to drinking it.
Okay, so let's move on to our individual picks, and I'm going to kick us off by talking about the Pinot Citro. And I actually remember this one from our first visit, because this was kind of a standout one to me. And I'm always curious when you go back to a place a few years later, is it going to be as good as I remember? Because it's been a few years and palates change. Well, obviously it was still good. It's a dry white wine that is a combination of their Pinot Grigio and their dry Riesling. So no wonder I enjoy this wine. It's two things I really like. It starts out with all the wonderful fruit and citrus notes you would expect from a classic Pinot Grigio, but ends with those classic Riesling mineral notes. I even got some creaminess to it that I wasn't expecting. I thought it was a really unique blend and all around a good wine that I think would make an excellent addition to a dinner table. Like, especially I'm picturing if you're serving fish, chicken, or like pasta with a butter or white sauce, this would just go so well with it.
Yeah, and I had to say this would have been my third pick if we still did that. I just loved the aroma. There's a lot of lemon in the flavor. It was just nice and smooth, and it's a dry that I think even sweet wine drinkers would really enjoy.
Yeah, this was an enjoyable wine as well, and actually one that really kind of surprised me in a good way. I saw the Pinot Grigio, I'm like, but I think the Riesling took over some of those aspects of the Pinot Grigio that I don't like, and just made this just a really excellent wine. And I do want to point out that on their little tasting sheets that they give you, a lot of the wines, most of them, in fact, actually tell you kind of a pairing of food with each and every one of them.
Oh, that's clever. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so just another nice little tip to them that, on their wine sheets, if you're looking for something specific for a meal, they do actually, on their sheet, tell you some pairing options for their wines.
It's good to know.
All right, my first pick, I'm going to go with a on-brand for Rob pick, and one that should be a crowd pleaser as well, and that is their Niagara. So I'm just going to say I didn't take a lot of notes on this one because I was just blown away at how good it was. In fact, my only note just says, this is what a Niagara should be. So it had all those hints, some earthy notes and the aromas, and I just don't really know how to describe it other than it's just your typical Niagara, except super elevated. So if you're not familiar, think of white grape juice. That's typically what the Niagara grape is made from. And this is just the wine form of it. There's some hints of acidity and just that wonderful Niagara, taste and flavoring and all that grapiness. And in fact, this is probably one of the highest Niagaras I've ever had, and definitely brought a bottle of this home with me because I couldn't even hesitate to not grab a bottle of it.
It's funny. I remember when you were just a dry red guy, and now you're recommending Niagaras.
Niagaras. Well, we already mentioned the Fredonia. Yeah. I come around to my sweet tooth every once in a while, but Niagaras are one of my sweet tooth picks.
All branching out a little bit more, I think.
Yeah. The more you drink, the more you branch out.
All right, Steve, what was your first individual pick?
So mine is the Villa Red. This is a semi-dry house blend, and I just love a good red blend. You're going to get some raspberry and some subtle cherry right at the start, and the flavors just sort of evaporate right off your tongue as it finishes, so it leaves this just nice feeling behind. It's so good to drink, and it just kind of leaves you wanting more. I noted that I enjoyed the flavors of the finish also, but were indescribable. So I clearly need more wine training to come up with better words. I bought a bottle of this, and I'm just really excited to crack it open and try some more.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one as well. I had considered it as a pick too. I'm looking at my notes. I think it's barrel aged, which is I don't always you don't like that, but notes goes good with pizza, which I think is definitely up Steve's alley. Yep. With the fruit, but I also put I liked the fruit. There was a lot of it, but the more I drank it, I got some more spice that was kind of built over time, which I really appreciated with this wine.
Yeah, it seemed like every time you took a sip of this, you were almost getting something different.
Yeah.
That each of the different wines that this was blended from started kind of poking through there, with raspberries and those peppery notes and spices, some oakiness and, the great tannins. And yeah, very complex wine, but a really good blend. And I really enjoyed this one as well.
Yeah, 1.5 ounces wasn't enough. So got to open that bottle.
So, all right. Pick number 2, I'm going to go a little bit of a curveball. I'm going to stay in the dry red lane, though. And I'm going to pick the Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve Unfiltered. And so, to be honest with you, I could have really picked any of their dry reds because they were really good from top to bottom on their list. But I picked the Cabernet Sauvignon Reserved Unfiltered. I should also note that they have 2 Cab Sauves on the menu. This one, which I'll just refer to as the Reserved, and they have one listed as the Cabernet Sauvignon Unfiltered. Now, the only difference in the two is that the Reserve spent an extra 12 months in oak. Now, it's been mentioned on previous episodes of this podcast that I, and really the three of us, we tend to enjoy our Cab Sauves more in blends than standalone versions. But I think it's safe to say for all three of us that these Cab Sauves could stand on their own, and they really, truly can. This one was well done, featuring nice oaks and cherry aromas and flavors that was silky smooth to drink and just had that perfect amount of tannins in the finish. So, you get hit with these nice cherry fruits up front, and then all of a sudden you're just into that tannic finish. The subtle differences between this one, the Reserved, and the other Cab Sauv that I noted was that the other Cab Sauv was a little bit more fruit-forward notes in the beginning and a little maybe more pepperiness in there than the Reserved. But either one would be an excellent to enjoy with pasta or steak, and if you like dry reds, this would be a good one to pick.
Yeah, I personally, I like the non-reserve a little bit better, but I think that's just because an extra year on oak
Sure.
put a little bit more oak flavor, and that's not really
Sure.
my thing. But I actually still did really like this reserve. It was well done, and the oaking just really did make it more well-rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my notes were kind of similar with everything you guys had said. I think if you want more tannins or that feel of tannins, I think that the Reserve is the better way to go. But if you want something a little bit smoother and fruitier, the unfiltered, like the regular one, is the way to go. Yeah.
A little more bold even.
Yeah, is the way to go. So, but yeah, they were both unique. Like you could tell they were Cab Sauves, but there was differences there. It was fun trying them back to back too.
Yes.
To kind of you could really pick up the differences between the two. All right, so I'm going to pick my second individual pick, and I'm actually going to pick a sweet wine. Don't do that too often here. And I'm going to go with the Stone Villa. Now, this is their best-selling wine at the winery, he said, and honestly, I'm not surprised. I don't pick sweet wines too often, but I did enjoy this one. I didn't think it was overly sweet. It was a beautiful pink color. Dominic did say it had some Catawba and Niagara grapes in it.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't reveal the other grapes because he said that's a closely guarded secret, and I can respect that. I respect that.
That's fine. Those other two grapes, those are great.
Wonderful. It has all those classic sangria smells. So if you're a sangria fan, that's what you're going to get. And it's very easy to drink. Lots of grape and citrus flavors like orange, lemon, and even some strawberry. I think we did like this one last time. I think this might have been the bottle we took to your sisters, actually.
I think it is.
And I did enjoy it this time. And maybe, moving into summer, I like the sweeter stuff, but this was a nice, sweeter wine, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, maybe my sweet tooth was coming out on this visit, but I really like this one as well. I almost picked it. It was probably my third pick if I was picking three. And I bought a bottle of this because I think my mom would like this, and she's starting to get into wine, and I wanted to take this to her.
Yeah, I really love this too. It was lighter and less sweet than your normal sangrias. It was just really easy to drink. In fact, it was dangerous because it was so easy drinking. I actually did, the thing that I got the most out of it was a strawberry, and I just really like that amongst all the other fruits.
Yeah. Well, and it is easy to drink. And you're right. I think we killed that bottle pretty quickly at your sister's that day because I think, some family was joining us and helping drink that bottle too.
Yeah, even people that didn't like wine, they tried it and they were like, ooh, and they came back for more. So
yeah.
Adult fruit punch.
Yeah.
All right, so for my second pick, I'm going to stick with the Villa theme, going back to the Villa Red I picked earlier, and pick the Villa White. So this is a dry blend, and it's dominated by the Chardonnay. So in this one, there's lots of lemon, and I got some kind of melon, and I just really like that melon, but I couldn't tell enough to really distinguish it and tell you which one exactly it is. But I got it in both the aroma and the taste, and the combination of those fruits was just perfect. Coming into the finish, there was just this touch of spice, and then there was some vanilla and mild caramel, and that's probably from that little bit of oak, and which normally I'm not a fan, but this was just done so perfectly that the whole flavor profile from start to finish was just, very, just well received. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I was surprised that you really liked it because my notes, I put lots of oak. Like I could tell it was oaked right away. And usually you don't go for that. So I was surprised.
Yeah, and that's where I'm certain the vanilla and the caramel come from. But I think it was done in a way that it didn't take on so much of the oak flavor individually, but instead it left you with some of those other really nice flavors. And that's why I think I really liked it.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I remember Dominic said It's what he calls the winter white. Like it's a good winter white because it's a little bit heavier or a little bit more bolder with that oak in there. And I even put my notes on. I got a lot of what you did, but I got a little bit of melon in it too, which I thought was interesting. So
I mentioned the melon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you did. Okay, so brain freeze. Sorry.
Yeah, this was a great wine. I had listed that it's the Chardonnay, but it's also got Saval and Vidal mixed in it, and I really like Saval. And you could really kind of get a little bit of each of those flavor profiles in there. But again, yeah, just a well done one. And yeah, I could see why this would be kind of your answer to a dry red. It's kind of a dry white for a winter time. And I rated it pretty high, and so it was a good wine.
All right. So, Rob, do you have any honorable mentions since we're through our picks now?
I'm going to shout out the Villa Passion.
Ooh, sticking with my Villa theme. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm sticking with a sweeter wine because this one combines two of my favorite grapes, the Niagara, which I've already talked about and picked, and the Fredonia. And this one was I thought it was really well done. I thought the Fredonia kind of toned down the Niagara, but in a really good way. And it was just very grapey, almost like a grape jam tasting out there. And again, I think this was, especially if you're a sweet drinker, this will be an excellent one to try.
Yeah, so I'm gonna shout out to Chamberson. This is a dry Chamberson, and I've kind of been getting a little bored with the grape in general, but Stone Villa has just sort of reinvigorated my taste for the grape. There's just tons of cherry at the start, but it's not sweet. It's just got a very smooth finish, but hardly any of the peppery notes that you usually get with a Chamberson. I think this one's worth trying. Even if you're not a big Chamberson fan, I think this is just a really great wine.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm hit or miss on Chamberson, but this was a hit.
Yeah. So I want to mention the seasonal wines, but before they do it, I'm going to do a last minute shout out because we're talking about the Villa, the Villa Sunset. I actually kind of enjoyed that. I think the Villa Sunset, yours was that you picked was
Passion.
Yeah, and that's the Niagara Fredonia, I believe. This is Niagara Concord.
Yes.
And it was very unique. And I remember he said they pair as well with Reese's Cup, and that's all I could think that day. I really wish I had a Reese's Cup when I was eating.
They were looking for it, but they didn't have any for us that day.
Yeah, but
yeah, so come prepared.
Yeah. But I did want to mention their seasonal wines. So this is something that they do when we visited with spring, and they had this semi-sweet wine called Villa Spring. And I do think that sweet drinkers would appreciate it. So they do have some seasonal wines throughout the year, but by far their most popular is their Christmas Rosé. It's a rosé wine, and it's a sweet wine. Now, he did have a sample that day he let us try, and I remember it had sweet fruit notes to start, but it finished more tart and cranberry-like, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Is that what you guys got from that?
Yeah, it was really good. I like tart.
Yeah.
And cranberry.
And cranberry. And I can see why it would be popular around the holidays. And he said it sells out every year, usually quickly. So if this is something you're interested in, I would make a note of it, maybe in November. Just keep an eye on their social media to see when they're releasing it so you can check it out. All right. Well, I think that's all we have to say about Stone Villa, other than thank you again, Dominic, for a wonderful thing. In closing, Stone Villa Wine Cellars has a beautiful setting that feels like something out of a storybook, but also offers some wonderful 100% grown and made Pennsylvania wines. It's one you don't want to miss if you're in the area. For more information, please visit their website, stonevilla.com. You can also find them on social media. And while you're out there, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook if you haven't already. We would also love it if you would share this podcast with others or leave us a review. Tune in to the first Wine Wednesday of next month as we discuss another visit to a Pennsylvania winery. Cheers!
Thanks for listening to Wine Time PA with your host Rob, Holly, and Steve. We hope you enjoyed our take on Pennsylvania wineries and all that they have to offer. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast. Also, be sure to follow them on social media for updates and news. Remember, when it comes to wine, drink what you love.